Welcome back. Today we're talking about Star Wars. This is really loud because I recently played Jedi Fallen Order just in time for Christmas. I don't know. This game came out a while ago, but I just finished it yesterday, so I want to talk about it. I have thoughts. Mostly, I think it's pretty good. Now, Star Wars has been ruined several times at this point, so I try not to think about it or invest in watching every single show or thing that comes out for the most part. However, every now and then I like to dip my toes back into it because I do really like Star Wars, turns out. I'm a nerd. I think Andor's pretty good, and I think everything else from Disney has been mediocre to bad. But hey, this game, it's pretty good. Is it the greatest game of all time? I don't know, but it's pretty fun, and you get to have a lightsaber and be a Jedi, and that's kind of fun. So in this game, you play as Cal Kestis. Pretty good Star Wars name. It's got like a double K sound to it, which I like. And Cal sounds like it could be short for like Callum or something like that, which sounds like a real name, but it's not a name that you hear all the time. So it fits a very Star Wars kind of vibe. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but good Star Wars name. Anyways, this game is basically like a Dark Souls type game, a Dark Souls like or whatever. I've played this one and the one where you play as a crab, so I'm pretty much a Dark Souls expert. And yeah, I get why this formula is fun. You get to have cool boss fights, you get cool level designs where they end up looping around on each other, you unlock new abilities as you go on that unlock new areas, and then you get to backtrack, but in fun and interesting ways, and it rewards you for paying attention to the map and all those kinds of things. Very Metroidvania, very like Metroid influence. There's like a whole thing with this ancient race of aliens that have disappeared, but they know some secrets about the Force or whatever, and you gotta learn about them and go to their planet where civilization used to exist, and they have these old temples, but now they're long gone. It's very the Chozo from Metroid. It's a little bit the Zonai from the last couple Zelda games. I like it. And you get to have a lightsaber and unlock new abilities, and you upgrade your lightsaber throughout the game as it goes. When making this game, you can tell that they were thinking about like, oh, what kind of different lightsaber abilities do we want to do? Should we do the classic regular lightsaber? Should we do two lightsabers? Should we do double-ended Darth Maul lightsaber? And then they were like, yes. So by the end of the game, you have a super duper double lightsaber that can also detach into two lightsabers, or you could just have it be one. It's all of the lightsaber possibilities in one, but it actually kind of works. I like it. I like how they tie that into the story. There's a whole thing where he has the lightsaber of his fallen Jedi master, and then later in the game you meet Ciri, who is also a Jedi Master, but she doesn't want to be a Jedi anymore, and there's like a whole thing about her character. She's actually like the most interesting one in this whole game, because she's like been cut off from the Force, and she has this mysterious backstory. We find out later on that she was trying to protect her apprentice, but then was tortured by the Empire until she eventually gave in and gave up the location of her apprentice, and then she felt really bad about this and then turned to the dark side briefly to kill a whole bunch of stormtroopers, which is kind of badass and cool, but then it freaked her out a little bit, so now she's just like avoiding using the Force at all. But anyways, later on in the game, she gives you her lightsaber, and then you combine it with your master's old lightsaber into a brand new double-ended lightsaber, and it's cool. There's a whole level where you go to Ilum from Clone Wars, the good one. I don't understand why there's never a scene in any Star Wars movie where we see one of the main characters make a lightsaber. In the Lucas movies, lightsabers are weirdly not that important. They're losing them all the time. Sometimes people just get given random lightsabers that have nothing to do with them. But then in like the sequels, they treat Luke's lightsaber like it's the most important thing in existence ever. But then they never allow any of our main characters to like have a scene where we see them build their own lightsaber. It's so stupid. Why is that not a scene in any of the movies? If lightsabers are so cool, then show them making it. If you want me to spend $200 at Disney to buy and make my own lightsaber, why don't we have a scene in the movies where that happens? Anyways, you're exploring a couple different planets in the Star Wars universe because you're looking for a Jedi holocron. I'm always looking for fucking holocrons in these things.
Yes, a Jedi holocron.
Barely ever appear in the movies, I think. Maybe in Rise of Skywalker there's a holocron at some point. But these are like all over the Clone Wars and expanded Star Wars media. They're basically just like a thumb drive, right? That like I guess maybe you need the Force to use, or maybe it's just a MacGuffin. It's just a goober. It's a thing that has info on it that's usually important. It's a holocron. It's a space hard drive. This one is kind of an interesting idea. It's got a list of all of the future potential Force users on it. So there's like a whole new generation. It's been a few years since Order 66 or whatever. So there's a whole new generation of potential Jedi out there in the galaxy. And if they find this thing, then maybe there's a potential to rebuild the Jedi Fallen Order. I'm gonna switch hands because my hand is getting tired. I would make a bad Jedi. It's too heavy. I can't fight with this. That's the main plot. You gotta go, and then you find a crew, and you go on a spaceship, and you go to a bunch of different planets. And then one of the big things is, of course, you have to have lightsaber fights, which means we're fighting Inquisitors. So I have some beef with the Inquisitors. More so, I just have like a lot of questions. Because like, okay, so I get why they're in this game. It makes sense. It's like what you would do if you were making a Star Wars game where you play as a Jedi and you want to have it be set in the canon, I guess, because it has to be. And then you also want it to be set around the original trilogy so that you're fighting stormtroopers and stuff, because that's what people are familiar with. And that way you can just jump right in and you get it. You're a Jedi, you got a lightsaber, stormtroopers are the bad guys, red guys with lightsabers, red lightsabers are the bad guys with lightsabers, so you fight them. It makes sense. But it gives me a bunch of questions about like why there are so many of these Inquisitors running around. And also, why is there so many Jedi running around? Because this isn't the only Jedi Fallen Order survivor story where it's set between episodes 3 and 4, and it's about a Jedi and a small group of friends who are trying to survive in the Empire while the Empire is hunting down the Jedis. They've told that story like 50 times. And this is one of them, but it's happened so often that I'm starting to be like, was Order 66 actually like effective at all? Did it like even work? Because there's like a lot of Jedi that seem to have survived this great Jedi purge. Let's do a roll count. Let's actually count that up and see. Got my smaller board today. Blammo. So let's actually tally up which Jedis are survivors and which Jedi are fallen orders. So in this game, we meet Cal Kestis, who survived. We got his new master / mentor lady, Siri. Her apprentice also survived and taken by the Empire, turned into a second sister or one of the sisters, turned into an Inquisitor. And then we also meet a guy named, what's his name? And we also meet a guy named Taron Malicos, who's obviously an evil Jedi. He was a Jedi that survived and then went to Dathomir, the evil Darth Maul planet, and turned evil, and you have to fight him. So that's 4 on the survivor side. And then we also meet Cal's master, big purple guy, and he dies. So that's 1 dead. Then in similar category, we have Star Wars Rebels. Main guy in that is Freddie Prinze Jr. He survived. The other Force user in that show is Ezra, but I think he's technically too young to have been eligible to be killed during Order 66, so we're gonna not count him. Then in the Obi-Wan show, we have Reva, I think is her name. One of the Inquisitors, again, same situation as this fucking game, where she was taken as a Padawan and raised by the Empire to become an Inquisitor. So that's another survivor. And then there's also like a random Jedi in one episode who's just a red shirt who's being hunted by them. And that's another one we know about. He also is another one. In the actual main movie, for a second, Revenge of the Sith, we think there's just two main Jedi survivors, Obi-Wan and Yoda. So let's put them on there. And here's where we see the most amount of Jedi being killed as well. There's a whole montage where we got Ki-Adi-Mundi, Aayla Secura, Plo Koon, Weird Hair Lady, all gone. And that's 4 right there. Boom, 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 boom. We also see Mace Windu, Kit Fisto, and those 2 other guys get killed by Darth Sidious. I don't think that really counts. Although it is the death of 4 major Jedis, it's like technically right before the main Order 66 Great Jedi Purge genocide even happens. So like that's like a preamble. That's like a warm-up. So I don't know if we can even count those. Now, to be fair to this movie, we do have a whole sequence where Anakin Skywalker, our protagonist's main character, goes to the Jedi Temple and kills like dozens of younglings, dozens of children in this Disney movie. the kind of ballsy move that only George Lucas would make, allowing his main character to kill dozens of children in a family movie. It's just for kids. Anakin Skywalker's just a little boy who loves racing space cars. But then in the 3rd movie, he gets to kill a bunch of kids. What a great franchise. I'm kind of joking, but also not. Like, I do think there is something really, really ballsy in having your main character have this huge corruption arc and turn so evil that he's murdering literally women and children. It's something that Disney would, like, never ever allow in any of their protagonists to be, 1, that evil, but 2, just even morally complex or flawed in like any real way. Like Cal Kestis, I like the actor. He was the Joker on Gotham or whatever. I think he does a good job, but he's kind of a boring character. And that doesn't really matter so much in this game because it's like, it's a video game. You play as a guy and he's kind of a blank slate, which is fine because when I'm playing the game, I'm going to be like, I'm a Jedi, look at me go. I'm so good at lightsaber fighting. I'm not really thinking about like Cal's motivations so much as I'm thinking about like, oh, I want to explore and hit things with a lightsaber because that's fun. Which is also, I think, why some of the other side characters like Ciri are a lot more interesting because they're allowed to be morally gray and have complex motivations because they're not the actual main protagonists. The problem is that like Disney also does this for their non-video game things, like their movies and shows where Rey is a boring as shit blank slate so that anyone can ascribe anything onto her. But it also makes her like really boring to watch. In a video game, that's fine. In a movie, it can be kind of boring. Anyways, I'm way off topic. So I was trying to figure out if I should count younglings on the Jedi Fallen Orders list here, because like I'm trying to count like characters that are of some note. And yes, I'm making like some exceptions, like the red shirt Jedi in that one episode of Obi-Wan. And I'm also counting younglings as survivors here, but they're only of note because they survived. So like, I don't know, you could argue that there's a point for, okay, here's what I'll do. I'll put 2 points for speaking roles of younglings, which is 1, the little British guy who goes, Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do? And then he gets killed. And then the other guy is the guy who I think is George Lucas's son. I might be making that up, but he does like a flip next to Bail Organa, and then he's like, run or something, and then he gets shot by the clones. So that's 2. But wait, I'm not done, because I also forgot about Ahsoka, who also survives. So So that's another one. And Baby Yoda was technically alive during the Clone Wars because the timeline is stupid and they don't know how ages work. So he's around. So that's 11 Jedi survivors and only 7 Fallen Orders. If we want to be really generous, we could say that the 4 guys, Mace and the boys, were counting as part of the main Order 66, which puts it up to 1, 2, 3, 4, which makes it tied. And I'm being generous here because there's a bunch of other Inquisitors who, like, we don't know that much about, and it is, like, implied that the Empire is trying to, like, recruit other younglings to train them into Inquisitors, but we don't know, like, for sure, like, what the Nightsisters' whole deal is, because she's just there for one boss fight and then you kill her. Anyways, my point is, it's close. At the very least, it's close. Which makes me ask a whole lot of questions, like, why is it so fucking close? I thought the whole point was that all these Jedi were killed. Oh yeah, there's a couple other Jedi I forgot to mention that, like, we don't officially know the whereabouts of. Like, there's, like, Shaak Ti, for example, who has, like, several non-canonical deaths, but we actually don't know technically what happened to her. So maybe she's out there somewhere. Same with Luminara and 1 or 2 of the other Jedi Council members who we don't see. Now, pre-Disney Star Wars, I would say, I think it's safe to assume that they probably just also got killed by the stormtroopers. But post-Disney Star Wars, with all these Jedi survivors running around, makes me think, why would I assume that? It turns out the Empire is actually really fucking bad at killing Jedi, especially younglings for some reason. And any Jedi that we see that aren't confirmed dead, I think it would almost be more safe to assume that they're alive somewhere. The other thing that this makes me ask questions about is, like, what is the Empire's goal here with all these Inquisitors? So, like, okay, so in this game, they've recruited some of the Inquisitors who used to be Jedi or used to be younglings or whatever, and they're there to hunt down other Jedi and kill them or turn them evil also. Now, that sounds like a pretty good plan, actually. If you wipe out all the, like, Master Jedis, there's a whole generation of young and impressionable younglings who could be turned to the dark side, and then you have, like, way more evil wizards on your evil dark side team, which I think would be, like, the most effective way to run an evil organization, is to have, like, a bunch of guys with evil magic powers that can help you maintain that control, instead of just 2. That's how they did it in the Old Republic, and it worked out pretty good, except for when it didn't. Basically, Star Wars canon is really dumb, and because Yoda says this one line, always 2 there are, a master and an apprentice, in Phantom Menace. Now the writers of the books and the spin-off material have to figure out a way that is true. So they invent this thing called the Rule of 2, and it's basically just that since Sith are so evil, they're, like, constantly betraying each other, and it's actually, like, not a very effective organization to have, like, a lot of them. So if there's only 2, then they can, like, work in the shadows and be evil and then betray each other one after another in succession after they train up their Padawans and teach them everything they know, until eventually Sheev gets around to actually doing some shit and ruling the galaxy. But we're playing a Star Wars video game, and we want to have Star Wars lightsaber fights in it. So how do we do that? Well, we gotta have mini bosses. So we invent something called the Inquisitors. They use the dark side, they have red lightsabers, but they're not technically Sith Lords, so it's okay. It technically doesn't break the canon, I guess. Even though if it walks like a Sith and it talks like a Sith, then it's a dirty fucking Sith in my book. So, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so there's a plot point in the end of the game. So I'm gonna spoil this game. It doesn't really matter. The bad guy gets the holocron, because of course, and so you gotta go sneak into the Empire base and steal it back. There's a brief little encounter with Darth Vader, because we gotta throw him in there. And you know what? It's actually kind of fun. Because, like, you can't really have, like, a boss fight with Darth Vader, unfortunately, because either A, you just get killed by him, and that's not very satisfying. B, you defeat him, but don't kill him for some reason, which is both narratively unsatisfying and makes Darth Vader Vader look like a little bitch. Or C, you do kill him and you create a tangent universe like in The Force Unleashed, which I think is the most fun option because it like completely ignores the canon, which is the whole problem that we got into in the first place. The only reason that it's like complicated why we can't just have like Sith running around is because we have to have it set near the original trilogy, and there's only two Sith there are, because of Yoda said that one time. So you do see Darth Vader really briefly, and he ends up killing the bad guy and trying to get the little holocron thingy, which made me think, oh, maybe this game is actually smart. And maybe the Darth Vader's whole plan was that because we also established the Empire is also looking into this ancient race of aliens that knew a little bit about the Force. So maybe he knew about that there was this magic holocron that had all the names of all the Jedi, that all the potential future Jedi younglings on it, and he wanted it because, as we know, Darth Vader loves killing younglings. And that was his plan all along. That's why he made these Inquisitors, so they could go find the guy who was going to find the stuff, or they could find the stuff themselves, or whatever, and then he could kill all the Inquisitors, kill Cal Kestis and his merry band of boys, and then go off and go on a killing spree throughout the galaxy, killing younglings from all across every world that had a potential future youngling. Darth Vader would show up and kill them. And I think that would be, and that's my personal headcanon, because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Otherwise, the Empire's just like, has a bunch of Inquisitors that they're like training up, and then they all conveniently die or are like not around anymore as soon as episode 4 starts, which is sort of my main big problem. There's this game, there's a sequel to it, which I haven't played yet, so I don't know if there's like more Jedi we meet or not. I don't know. And then we got Star Wars Rebels, we got Obi-Wan Kenobi. The show has like more Jedi and Inquisitor nonsense in it. Ahsoka's running around at some point. Darth Maul is technically alive in this era. No, he's not a Jedi survivor, but he is a loose fucking end. Luckily, Obi-Wan Kenobi finishes him off for the Empire, but you know, like, they probably should have handled that shit. If they're so bent on killing other Force users who could be a potential threat to them, why don't they do it more often? If the Empire's so fucking smart, how come they don't kill more Jedi? They get all this praise for this Order 66 genocide, but they barely killed a room full of children. Meanwhile, there's Jedi all across the universe just running around fighting Inquisitors until the cows come home. And then suddenly, by the time we get to episode 4, when, like, the rebels actually finally strike a major blow against the Empire for the first time, conveniently all these Jedi and Inquisitors that were going at it for 20 years are all just conveniently dead, or some of them teleported through time so that they could conveniently not be around during the original trilogy when all the actual major story happens. Why were Obi-Wan and Yoda so, like, bent on, like, oh, only Luke and Leia, that's our only hope, when there's, like, 50 other Jedi running around fighting each other all the time? Just gather those guys together, and you could have probably done the shit that Luke did in, like, an afternoon. Okay, now I want to talk about a different thing. One of the planets you go to in this game is Dathomir. This is the evil red planet that Darth Maul is from. And here we run into a group called the Nightsisters. These are Star Wars witches. They're just witches. And I have a lot of questions about that. Like, how the hell are there witches in this universe? Now, I'm not necessarily against the concept of there being, like, a witch archetype in Star Wars, because Star Wars is just, like, repackaged mythology. It's wizards and knights and princesses and space death balls. All the classic stuff that Joseph Campbell and Kira Kurosawa were always writing about. And what is a witch if not just a female wizard, right? So, you know, arguably, Star Wars already has witches. You got Ayla Secura, you got Rey, you got Leia, you got Shakti, you got other ones probably. Ahsoka, I guess. Is Ahsoka the biggest, like, female Jedi that people care about? Probably. That's kind of sad. But the Witches of Dathomir, the Nightsisters, that's just another word for witch. You barely even tried with that. At least Jedi is like, that's like a fantasy name. I feel like that was stolen from one of the John Carter books. Anyways, it's like they occasionally will refer to Jedi as wizards, but like in a derogatory, this is not the proper terminology kind of way. But they're mostly known as Jedi, which like they're officially known as Jedi, which is like a space fantasy word that's made up. Nightsister, that's, come on, you barely tried with that. That's just another word for witch. So that's my first thing. Like, if we're gonna have a Star Wars witch, then like categorize it properly. And then secondly, like what are their powers? Like, she could just do magic, I guess? She could just do magic. That's a thing that they can do. And it's like, well, the Force is just magic. The Force is whatever. Maybe they're using the Force. Okay, why does it look totally different then? She's got like green energy. She can like teleport. We've never seen people do that with the Force. And like, yeah, we see people do things with the Force we've never seen every day. But still, there's a lot of stuff going on here that feels very different from how the Force is. So like, is this the Force? Is this just like part of the dark side? Is it a different thing? Can there be just a different magic system in Star Wars? I guess so, but it feels kind of weird because the whole point of the Force is that it's like, it binds us and penetrates us, and it sure loves penetrating, and everything is connected through the Force. The Force is life energy itself. It's not just crude matter. It's anything and everything. It's the yin and the yang. It's the Tao. It's the way. It's everything is connected through the Force. There's some omnipotent, all-binding energy that connects everything. Then how can there be a magic system unrelated to that? Even if it comes from like a different planet or a different, I don't know, maybe there's some weird juice on Dathomir that you drink and it gives you magic powers or something. But if there is, like, I don't know, tell me about that. And I'm sure someone probably in the comments will be like, oh, well, here's the origin of the Nightsisters and where they got their powers and what their deal is and stuff. But like, I don't know if I want that, I guess is my point. I'm conflicted about the existence of witches I think it just like, be consistent. If you're gonna do it, then like fully commit and explain what it is and how it connects to the Force, or don't do it because it's confusing to me. I think there was witches in like the Ewoks cartoon, but like, I don't know. That feels separate enough that I don't care. Also, do people consider that to be canon? I don't think so. So whatever. But the Dathomir Nightsisters, they show up in the Clone Wars, they show up in the game here, and like, I don't know, I kind of like something being wacky and different, because there sure is a lot of Jedi who have to fight. Oh no, we gotta fight the Empire. They're gonna build a Death Star in like everything. So at least this is like a new idea. And then at the end of the game, like one of the Nightsisters like joins your crew, and I think that's kind of fun. That's a very Star Wars idea. There's like this weird group of people who shouldn't be together forming a crew to explore the galaxy. Like that's about as Star Wars as you can get. Even though, yeah, this crew is pretty much the same exact crew from Rebels. We got an apprentice. We got a master Jedi. We got an alien guy. There's a little robot. A goth chick. It's the same fucking crew. But I digress. That's all my thoughts, I think, on Star Wars. I like the game. I think it's fun. I think there's also kind of a world-building conundrum of having to have every fucking Star Wars thing be set in and around the original trilogy, and I wish that Disney would like be willing to take more risks with the brand if they're gonna make 50 billion Star Wars shows and games. But at least this one's fun to play, and you get a lightsaber, and it can turn into 2 lightsabers, and I think that's fun. Please explain to me why I'm wrong about all my Star Wars things and what the Nightsisters are, and why it's okay actually that there's like 100 Inquisitors. Also, please don't be like racist or sexist in the comments about a Star Wars thing. Has Star Wars gone woke? I don't care. Shut up. That's the end of this video. Bye-bye.